Whether you're into unsolved mysteries, solved mysteries, or creating your own mysteries, Amazon Music's got millions of podcast episodes waiting. Just download the Amazon Music app and start listening to your favorite podcasts ad-free. Included with Prime.
Every day, excessive delays and denials from big insurers keep patients from accessing the care they need. And when care is urgent, these delays can be disastrous. These practices cost billions in wasteful spending, driving up costs for American families. But while big insurers put up barriers, America's hospitals and health systems are in your corner, navigating endless reviews and appeals to get you the care you need when you need it most. It's time to curb these harmful practices and put the focus back on patients. Brought to you by the Coalition to Strengthen America's Healthcare.
Welcome to Good as Gold, the podcast where we share how Olympic dreams are actually human stories. I'm Sarah Hughes, Olympic champion in figure skating 2002 Salt Lake City, and your host for this journey behind the medal.
I flipped it. Nope, it's not going to let me flip. I started on there. It's going to end on there. Okay, there we go. I could see me the whole time.
Well, now it's working.
Yeah, if you want to hear, I was planning on using my laptop, and then Sarah, my wife, and I realized that we left it at a restaurant last week. She was using it to go over soccer rosters for the soccer organization she's the president of, and yeah, definitely. I had brought it there, but I mean, she was the one using it, and we left it sitting at the table. So I was gonna go get it, but they weren't open. They were closed last night, and they were closed until 11, and I had a call this morning that went long. So, oops. So my phone, it is.
Do they have it?
I imagine they will. We're in a small town.
I mean, I read this crazy story about you dropping your phone when you were fishing.
Yeah, right to the bottom of a lake, 22 feet of water.
But then you got it, and it still works.
I got it the next day. That was yeah.
That should be like an ad for the phone.
And it was still on.
No.
It had 45% battery still on it.
Wow. Wasn't it over 2 feet underwater?
Yeah, but it must have been down in the muck. I don't know. But it was, yeah, I pulled it out, and I left the case on it after I'd got it, and I started fishing with my buddies because we were going to fish then the next day because it was an hour away where I was. And yeah, went and got it back, and I had it in my pocket of my jacket, and I was like, oh, I should probably take it out of its case so it can dry. And when I went to take it out of its case, it had 45% battery. I'm like, no way.
So you're just lucky with electronics too.
I don't know about lucky, but I had my underwater camera, and I concocted a device to go and scoop it up off the bottom in 22 feet of water, and we got it. It was wild.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time to come today. Wait, I want to hear about the phone call you were on. So you told me that you sold your life story?
We
Up
sold
until
our
now?
life story up until 2018. Yeah, our team did.
So what does that mean?
So that means that we allowed a group to kind of, write a motion picture about our journey to winning gold in 2018. We sold it back in January of 19 is when it finally got finalized that we signed the deal with the group we signed it with. And yeah, and it got written once, and then it got moved over to another group that kind of did a rewrite, and they sold it to Spyglass, picked it up, and then Paramount just greenlighted it yesterday. So
Wow, congratulations.
yeah, so I was doing script review with the guys.
Well, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you get a say in casting?
They actually just told me today who was gonna play me. So I don't get a say, but I as of an hour and a half ago know who's playing me.
Wow. Can you say if it's Paul Rudd?
It is not Paul Rudd. So our characters have to be in their 30s. My character has to be in his 30s. Are we recording? Is this part of the podcast already? Or is this conversation?
Oh, we can edit it out if you want.
All right.
We're good. Anyway, that's very cool. Congrats. I mean, Paramount's a big oh no. Are you in a basement?
I am in my basement because I have a very loud barking dog that the middle of the day. You didn't need to hear that. So
Okay.
yeah. But I have like, yeah, I have good internet everywhere. My Wi-Fi router is right above me, so it shouldn't be a problem, but sorry.
That's okay. Um, so I don't know where the movie starts, but I was wondering how you get into curling.
Uh, it's kind of like a lot of sports, probably. Like, I'm from a small town with a curling club, and my dad curled in a men's league. So, I remember from the time I was really little, on Thursday nights, if we didn't have anything else going on, my mom would, take me and maybe my sister, who was 4 years older than me, to the curling club, and she'd like to go watch my dad's games because she curled a little bit before I was born, and then stopped when my sister and I were born. But she really liked the game, and so she'd go watch. And for me, I'd watch a little bit, but there's a pool table there, and there was, I think I got a little bit talked into it because there was a popcorn machine, and we didn't really have soda at our house, so like there was Dr Pepper, so I was going to the curling club for the popcorn and Dr Pepper and the pool table. And yeah, and as I got a little bit older, got kind of more interested in what was happening out there. And then by the time I think in sixth grade is when I finally decided I want. So yeah, that was kind of where I got into wanting to try it. But then, and then, it's like anything, Sarah. Like the first time that I stepped on the ice, I remember I knew what it was supposed to look like. So I think I probably progressed very, very quickly into like being able to like deliver a curling stone like effectively. But um, the first time you actually like get out there and like through it, I'm like, wow, there's just something graceful and magical, and it like hooked me from like day one. I imagine like the first time you go around on an edge and figure skating, and you feel that there's just something about sliding a curling rock that has just something that yeah, hooked me from the beginning.
Did people just go right on and start sliding? I mean,
I
have you
mean,
learned?
yeah, like
Do
I
you
mean,
learn
no.
with the actual curling stones that you
Yeah,
use?
yeah. That's the only way to do it is like there's a rink there that has, and like curling rinks, like, yeah, at the Olympics we play in big arenas, but like a curling club or a curling rink, like there was 4 sheets or lanes is what we kind of call them. In curling we call them sheets. Yeah, there's just 8 stones at the back of the sheet, for each color. And yeah, and you go out and kick out of that starting block we have that we call the hack, and slide out, and you have a little piece of Teflon under your foot or steel or something, and kind of slide out and try to slide the rock down to the other end. So yeah, and I went and tried. I got a how I kind of I always thought I would always ask my dad when I started to get interested, like if I could go throw a rock after he got done playing. He was always like, no, it's men's league, because I mean there's guys men's league, like, guys are drinking beer as they're playing down there. It's like golf league, right? Like there's no kids out here, like, no. And then finally in sixth grade, my pre-algebra teacher was one of the people that ran the junior curling program, which was on Sunday afternoons or Sunday evenings, and put out a flyer like, come try curling for the last month of the winter basketball season's over. And that's where I was like, okay, if my dad's not going to let me do it after a curling league game, I kind of always wanted to try it. And so that was the time when I actually went to the club in sixth grade, was, because of a flyer that my pre-algebra teacher put out there. And so, yeah, there's instructors, at junior curling programs. And yeah, so I went and did that, and ended up going to every week then thereafter, and played my first Bonspiel, which is curling's weird word for tournament. Yeah, and then the next year, I started even subbing for my dad in league. Like when he was playing in league, like I would play with him once in a while. And yeah, and it was something I really liked doing. But I was also at the time still playing basketball, and I was a pretty good basketball player too. So um it wasn't until after eighth grade that I decided that I was going to hang up playing basketball. And when I started ninth grade, I started taking curling as like my full-time winter sport. Yeah, and it's in Chisholm, Minnesota, where I grew up. It's a little small town of like 5,000 people. We had a guy who had retired from the Peace Corps that was a curler in high school, and had retired back to Chisholm, and he was passionate about getting kids on the ice, and so he had the curling club open for us every single day after school. And so I'd get done with school, and I'd either walk to the curling club, or when I was like 16, would drive there and go practice every single day after school. And I kind of treated it like I had treated basketball and baseball, like a varsity sport, which, hadn't really been done much, because most kids, if you go curl on Sundays, you're curling on Sundays and maybe curling in a league. But I was practicing every single day. And to be honest, like by the time I was in high school, I was probably throwing the rock, and I was always, really loved the strategy of the game too, and could compete with, some of the best curlers in our area and even the best curlers in the country. And and it just grew from there.
I mean, Minnesota is one of the hotbeds for curling in the country. So when you won the Minnesota High School Championship curling, the curling championship, was that like one of the coolest moments of your life?
At the time, yeah, that trophy was huge. But it's funny because it wasn't a high school sport where you compete like here this week you go play this team, you play this team. It was just one random tournament that was like the high school curling championship, but you had to be in high school age because junior curling is probably like, I don't know where figure skating cuts off, but like junior curling is like 21 and under, whereas high school is, you had to be in high school. So, but yeah, winning that thing was definitely one of the, I think it was like my second or third Bonspiel win, and it was, a big one, and the trophy was huge, and it was, yeah, like anytime you win something when you're younger, you kind of prove to yourself, like, okay, I'm doing the right things or I'm taking the right steps and on the path maybe I want to be on if I want to take this further. And I think that was one of those steps where, okay, this is the path that I always, that I think I want to be on. And it was just, affirming that.
So you were allowed to go to the curling club every day to practice?
Yeah, the months that we had curling ice, which was usually, it's kind of crazy because we only have curling ice in Chisholm. The ice would go in like after deer season was over, so like end of November, and then through like the end of March. So we didn't have a super long season. So even for me, if I wanted to curl before mid-November, Hibbing sometimes the next club over that was 7 miles away. So I curled there in league as well as I got into high school. Or I'd take a drive down to Duluth, which was like an hour away, and go practice there because Duluth gets ice around the middle of October. But every single day after school was done, I'd go we'd get done at 3 o'clock, and at 3:15 I'd be on the curling ice and probably practicing for probably like an hour 15 minutes, which is a lot because if you're practicing by yourself in curling, you can deliver a lot of stones. It takes about 30 seconds for a shot to happen. So, I was probably throwing 50 to 100 to 200 like rocks a day, and it was something that I enjoyed doing. Then I was playing league after that on top of that in men's leagues in Hibbing and Chisholm and in Bonspiels on weekends. So yeah, it became kind of like who I was through high school.
Well, what's the cross training you do for it?
I mean, nothing back then. I played baseball through a couple of years of college too. So, I mean, but for me, I think, baseball was pretty good cross training, which seems crazy, but, I was a pitcher in baseball, and there's, like throwing a curling rock is very precise, right? You see somebody giving a target at one end, and there's the broom, and like to have the hand-eye coordination to, deliver it directly at the broom with directly the right speed. I think like, standing on a pitcher's mound and have a catcher give you a target and show you where to throw it and like trying to hit that target was something, so, I used other sports probably as cross training kind of deal. But, when I was young, you wouldn't find me in a weight room. That wasn't the deal.
I mean, you had like two mainstream sports, basketball and baseball.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I'm going to specialize in curling.
Well, I actually went and watched the Olympic trials for the first time curling was ever a full medal sport was in 1998 in Nagano. And the Olympic trials finals, so the last 8 teams that got into the Olympic trials were in Duluth, where I curl now, like in the curling club. And I remember going down and watching, and I expected, because this was in 1997, I was at start of 9th grade. I just decided to start curling full time instead of basketball. And I thought I was going to go there and be like blown away by how good these guys were that were playing there. And I remember being underwhelmed, and it wasn't because they weren't good, but it was like the level that I could throw the rock at already, and I hadn't even done it for an incredibly long amount of time, just didn't look that any different from what those guys were doing out there. And again, they were very, very good. Like all these guys were the top 8 teams in our country that had been around, but I thought I was going to be super impressed. And I was like, wow, okay, that doesn't look, I think maybe I could do this because that doesn't look that much different than what I'm doing.
So that was the moment that you were like, I can go be a 5-time Olympian in this.
Well, I don't know about 5,
at least,
but I thought I could be an Olympian. So yeah, but
I mean, that must be like pretty cool also to be like, you're pretty serious about curling. You're spending a lot of time curling at that point. And then it becomes an Olympic sport. And you're like, oh, now there's something else to aspire to within this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
I mean, I was reading.
What's that?
No, I was just saying, I was like reading about curling in the Olympics, and it was like, in the first modern games in 1924, curling was actually part of it. But it took until 2006 for the IOC to say, oh, we'll give, those results, like we'll make those results official from
Yeah, that's
1924.
right. I mean, because it was a demonstration sport in 1980 and then again in 1988 as well. And then it was, but that's where I think from the time I probably threw my first stone, like they knew it was going to be a full medal sport in 98. But yeah, because it had been a demonstration sport several times, and you know how that politics goes in, the Olympic arena, and but yeah, and I think we're firmly in there now as a sport. We have, there's 20 teams in the 20 countries in the world that all have legitimate teams that could be in the Olympics, every quad. So, and that's really part of being an Olympic program is having that competitiveness across the countries. Yeah.
It was a demonstration sport then 1932, 1988, 1992. And then I guess they decided not to do it in 94.
Yeah. I don't know. Apparently,
But
yeah, was that Lillehammer where it wasn't? Not in
I
Norway.
guess you remember.
Yeah, no, but like I said, that was I didn't even really think to become a curler until, after that. So, but it was fun the fact
After
that it became a
98?
full Olympic sport was definitely a carrot to being it. But at the same point, the Hibbing Curling Club where I played league, the 1976 Men's World Championship champions were from that club. So like I knew there was world championships in our sport every single year because they had been around for a long, long time. So the Olympics was, obviously probably just a bonus.
I mean, like hearing you talk about curling and I guess like some of the reputation of the sport and that it's like social, it's fun, beer league curling. But then you watch it and it's really serious. At least it is now.
Well, it is when you're playing, when you're playing on TV. Yeah, no, but that's and what you find out is as I get along the way is there's like a world curling tour. And it's not, there's events every week. There's 5 or 6 events you can play in every week. And like right now our team plays like every other week we play in an event on the tour. And yeah, and if you're doing it and trying to aspire to, go to national championships, to win national championships, to go to Olympic trials, to, win Olympic trials, go win the Olympics. Yeah, that part of the sport is definitely more serious than going and playing on a Tuesday night with a couple buddies and drinking a few beers. But the beauty of our sport is I've never stopped curling in league. I still curl. I curl on Monday nights with my wife and a couple of our friends. And then I curl on Wednesday nights with my kids now, who are 10 and 12 years old. Like they play in a curling league and they have 2 other kids on their team. But if one of the kids is missing, like I'm the fill-in. So like I'll go curl with my kids in league. So even though I'm competing, every other week around the world and battling for, the Olympics and the national championships and world championships, is I still play in league like I did when growing up. So that's one of the weird things about our sport.
If I'd say it's weird, I'd say it's nice.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Like the community. So do your kids, I guess like, they were very young in 2018 when you won. And then in Beijing, it was during the pandemic, so they didn't get to go.
Nope. Yeah, it was, yeah, Luke, that's one thing that half the reason why even curling, where I didn't even think about retiring after 22 was like, my kids, they're going to remember that one, but they're going to remember, leading parades, my kids carrying the flag at their school opening ceremonies for the Olympics, just like Dad was out in Beijing, and not, being there while I was carrying the flag at opening ceremonies in the stands, right? Like, so this is a chance they'll be old and they're definitely old enough now to remember if we make the Olympics this year to, be there. I don't know if they'll be able to afford it because the Olympics are getting ridiculous expensive these days, but
it's so expensive. Anyway, so tell me about the Olympics. So you make your first team in 2006. So that's not very long after, actually 8 years after you saw it on TV and were like, oh, this would be cool.
Yeah,
what was the experience like of like walking up in ceremony, putting on the jacket, and then actually being in the arena competing?
Yeah, no, it's it's surreal. Like, I didn't even make it to a junior national championship until, my freshman year of college, which was 2002. And I went to 2002 Olympics as a spectator. My parents and I went, and we went to probably like 5 or 6 events. We went to like 3 or 4 curling games and went to like doubles luge. I was actually standing next to the track when Mark Gourmet and his partner got their silver medals. Like we were standing next when they found out they were Olympic medalists. Like I'll never forget being there in person, 15 feet away from them as their coaches tackled them on their sleds, and Brian and Mark, clinched an Olympic medal. Like, I mean, I remember watching those openings. I remember watching you from a little tiny hotel room in a Roach motel between Salt Lake City and Ogden where the curling was. And so then I made my first junior national championship that year, and the next year I ended up getting a chance to play on one of our better men's teams in our country, but that team hadn't won anything yet, like as a team. And that year we won the men's national championship, and I was going to the men's world championships at 20 years old. So that happened extremely fast. And then we were the best team in the country all the way up into the 2006 Olympics. So, we won the Olympic trials as the favorite in 2005, and and we ended up going to the Olympics in 06, and it was, those things you definitely never forget is, going through processing the first time, and like trying on all the stuff and getting all those things. And then the first time you get to use anything you're doing in processing is when you do go walk opening ceremonies for the first time. And, like 2006 opening ceremonies was life-changing. I mean, I remember when you can see the entrance into the Olympic Stadium, when you're walking out there, and then the flag bearer waves the flag, and, USA chants within the delegation. And the first time I remember it being like an out-of-body experience. Like, I don't remember walking. I remember floating around the arena. But our families had all bought tickets for opening ceremonies. And so we're floating around the stadium and looking, and you see American flags like, oh, I think that was them. I think that was them. I think that was them. And then we got to the end of the loop, and our families had made it all the way down to the rail right at the bottom of the loop. And we got to, I got to share like the opening ceremonies, like with my parents. Like I went from floating, like out of body experience to like, I'm crying talking about it still to this day. Like it was so emotional because, like without that support. And at that point, like I just met my now wife, like a month before I left for the Olympics, but they were the people that allowed me to take that journey, that would bring me to any curling tournament I wanted to play in, that, sacrificed so much. And to be able to share that with my parents was like so powerful. And then, the opening ceremonies are crazy. They're outside and it was pretty cold, and a Formula One car was sitting there whipping donuts in the middle of the Olympic Stadium, like as we were sitting there watching it. Like it was wild. And but it was also like it was profound. And the one thing about carrying the flag in 2022 was a huge honor, but it was also kind of, for me, I've always had a teammate on my actual curling team that their first Olympics was one of my next Olympics. And I've always just taken in and relived my first walk around that opening stadium with my teammates that were making their first walk into an Olympic stadium, and all the other athletes in the delegation that, which ones are first timers when you walk into the stadium, because it's life changing. And it was that moment of my life made me realize that it was something that, that I was never going to take for granted, and that it was, something I wanted to do. And then to go to that Olympics, and our team was not projected to win a medal. We weren't a favorite. It was a huge surprise. They said, yeah, the women's team can maybe medal, but the men's team has no chance. And there we were playing in the medal round of the Olympics. And then you lose the semifinal, and your dream of being an Olympic champion disappears. And then the next day you got to come play for an Olympic medal. So if you don't win that one, you're going home with 4th place and nothing, right? And I was just a 23-year-old kid that I was the person who made the speech to my team after the gold medal game that, like, we need to figure out how to pick this up, because I haven't worked to go home to not be an Olympic medalist. Like, this is what we need to do. We need to figure out how to win that game tomorrow. Yeah, we all just had our dreams of being champions crushed, but like tomorrow is now the biggest day of our lives. and we did it. We went out and played an incredible bronze medal game, and yeah, and then later the gold medal game got played later, and then yeah, Metals Plaza in Torino was something that was out of this world too. There's just like the pomp and circumstance and the fireworks and laser light show and whatever, but it was also that same podium experience that is the reason why I'm still curling today. Um, we got our bronze medals, and I remember looking at that thing and being like, this is like the best day of my life. And I had set my goal to be an Olympic medalist based on one of our guys from our 1998 team. I remember him speaking to us when we were kids and saying, I set my goal to be an Olympian, and I truly believe if I set my goal to be an Olympic medalist, I'd be standing in front of you as an Olympic medalist, not just as an Olympian. And there I was on the podium, like, thank you, Mike Poplinski, who's now one of our national coaches, but for the juniors. But and then they gave us those bronze medals, and then they gave Finland the silver medals and gave Canada the gold medals. And they said, all right, everybody remove your caps for the playing of the national anthem of Canada. And it was like, oh, Canada. And seriously, 2 words is all it took to realize that, like, that wasn't my dream to be an Olympic medalist. Like, I didn't aim high enough. Like, I wanted to be on the top of the podium and singing our national anthem. And that was where I decided that I recommitted to doing more than I had done at that point. And granted, I was super young, but like in curling, we have long careers, as you see, 5 Olympics. But yeah, that was one of those profound moments for me that I was, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you after that, like, moment of realization that I didn't party like a rock star, but that firsthand that I partied like a rock star. That
Remember what happened at this Sports Illustrated party that you talk about?
Well, I mean, it was like it was in the
I
Budweiser pyramid. Do you remember that giant translucent pyramid that Budweiser put up in Torino?
well, I think it was like a joint party, right?
It
That
was like
like
Sports
Bud and
Illustrated threw this
Sports
party at
Illustrated.
the Budweiser place. But
Right, and I think that there was like an issue also of some people getting in because then you had to be 21, like you couldn't be 19, 20, right? Or
yeah,
was that like not
probably.
a thing? I don't
Yeah, I don't
remember.
know. But I remember, like, from that night, what I remember is like definitely that, like, there was like hot tubs randomly in this side VIP area with like Italian models and stuff, and it was like weird. But then there was like a bar that had a spiral staircase and a VIP area like behind the bar. And my sister and brother-in-law were with me, and you were there with somebody else, but you were like hanging out with us pretty much most of the night. But like, I got you into the VIP area up above behind the bar. So like, that's where I knew I made it. I'm like, I just got an Olympic champion into a VIP area that she wasn't going to get into.
You know
But
what?
we wore our medals all night. So we had our medals on at this party. And so it was like, yeah. And so,
People, people think like the Olympic parties are the best, and they used to be really, really extravagant. And I think that was the last time that Sports Illustrated spent a lot of money on an Olympics party.
yeah, I mean, there were some definite parties, like big, big extravagant parties in Vancouver as well. But Vancouver was definitely the last one that had like massive, but it was also in a downtown metro and you could kind of go anywhere. It wasn't like exclusive. We're like, that Sports Illustrated party required a ticket, but luckily enough for us, like the ticket was the medal. So, like, yeah.
I mean, I guess like if you're at an Olympics and just wearing your medal everywhere, that's kind of like a VVIP, very,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
important person.
Yeah. I remember actually coming home and like, I had some friends that like we went out to like the college bar because I'm still college age. Like I forewent my last year of college to go to the Olympics and then went back and finished the next year. But I remember bringing it like my friends. I was like, okay, we'll bring it out to the bars kind of thing, and I had it, and the bartender like hands me a drink, and he's like, you're not paying for a drink all night, but I never want to see that thing in here again. Like, all right.
When was the last time you wore your bronze medal?
I don't really wear either of my medals very often. I
Okay.
love letting other people wear them. Yeah, I couldn't honestly tell you. I probably threw it on for a picture or two. Like, we had a parade in Bemidji where Fenton and Polo were from after we got back, where I'm pretty sure we wore them like for the parade kind of through town. But yeah, I'm not. I wear them. The night you get them, kind of thing. But after that, like, is one of those things that I like to save that. But same point. My ribbons and both my medals and the medals are both pretty beat up, and the ribbons are pretty much destroyed because they're like silk and they don't give you replacements. So like they are what they are. But I think, I've always thought when you win an Olympic medal, you win it as a country, like they, say Olympic champion such and such, but the United States of America. And I just, like, I think that we win Olympic medals for your country, and you just get to be the keeper of it because you're the person who earned it for your country. And that's where I just think that sharing it with people and giving people an opportunity to hold something that belongs to our country is like also like one of the biggest honors of my life. And yeah, I think both my medals have probably been in over 10,000 people's hands, and I don't let people wear my gold anymore very much because the ribbon is so broken. I just don't want it to be like that's the last straw and it falls onto the floor. So if I let someone wear it, I'm like, okay, you can put it around your neck, but like don't let it dangle.
Well, because they're heavy.
Yeah, like, the one from Pyeongchang was the heaviest Olympic medal ever made until Beijing made it just a little bit heavier. But the funniest thing is I went and I was like looking, and it, they engrave in them or whatever. It says, like men's curling. And I was like, I wonder if that's the fewest number of letters that could be carved out of it. And we were pretty sure it was. So we think that the men's curling medal is actually the heaviest medal ever made because it had less letters taken out of it on the medal. I know you say men's luge, but men's says singles luge and doubles luge. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Look at what I mean.
It
I
doesn't
guess my
matter.
medal's not nearly as heavy as mine is heavy though.
Well, yeah, they don't mess around when they give you those things. Like they're not like they're all heavy, and that's the thing, right? But they're like solid silver and plated in gold. So
So, like one of the things that I like about you telling this story is also your patriotism in being like, this is for the US, because I know you've had a few struggles with USA curling.
well, USA curling and USA Olympic fans, yeah, 2010 was something.
I remember seeing you at the USA House in 2010, and you were just like, "Oh, this is terrible. Everyone hates me. The whole country hates me." All of this stuff, which, um, you know, I felt was like blown out of proportion.
Yeah, I mean, you
But
think that, but my goodness, like it was incredible. Like the amount of vitriol that people can and and really, even if you look right now, like my Twitter handle is still Shusty 2010. And I keep the 2010 on there because Twitter in 2010 was like the worst place on earth if you were doing something like missing last shots to win games at the Olympics. And I missed 4 last shots that ended up, as to end 3 different games because I missed a last shot of a 10th end and a last shot in 11th end against Switzerland. And I say but like our team missed them, but I was the guy throwing them. So like whether it was my fault or not doesn't really matter. But um, yeah, it was so bad that I keep that 2010 on there to kind of remind myself that, social media, doesn't matter. Like I can't give it any weight to what other people are saying or spewing or whatever, because it was so awful. And it ended up being in 2010, it's like a drug almost. Like once you start reading it, you can't stop. And you're just like, oh my God, what else is being said? What else is being said? What else is being said? And it was, I mean, definitely a deep, deep, deep low point, in my sports career, maybe even in my life. It was awful. But at the same point, um, I took the next year and a half after that. The next year I competed, but I played third for another on a team where I wasn't the skip, and I, took that weight of throwing the last rock off of my shoulders and wasn't really sure, if I wanted to continue, to play. And 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 really it was the summer of 2011 after a full season after the Olympics that I went back and watched one of those games where I missed some last shots, and I almost was my heart rate, I just was going through the roof as the game got close to the end and I knew what was going to happen. That I realized that I had some anxiety like issues like towards the end of games, like even knowing what was going to happen. And but I also realized that that might be something I can overcome. And I knew that calling the curling game, like strategy and tactics, has always been my strength. That's where I've set myself apart from, other people in our country, and been known as one of the better tactical players in the world. So that I needed to be the skip of a team in my own mind. And yeah, and I really, that's where I started making the steps to develop into, what I became after that. So, I mean, it was obviously a very important part of my journey. It was having that big failure. So,
I mean, maybe it made a little bit more dramatic because then, 2018, spoiler alert, you win, which we can get to in a second, but it's like 2010, it's like last place, 2014, second to last place. So then, it just sounded like you're helping U.S. curling figure out, okay, how do we rebuild? How do we get back into, the elite of the elite? And it's like you find a sports psychologist, you find a trainer, like let's
well,
get in better shape. And then they hold a combine
yeah,
to try to say, like, we're gonna now figure out we're gonna decide through this combine who's gonna be on the high performance team.
yeah, they had a combine July of 2014. Yep.
Did you feel like you were above going to this combine?
No, because to be honest, like I worked with our national, like our head national coach of our high performance program. It was a lot of my ideas that were going into place. Like, I remember seeing Derek in kind of at USA House in Sochi. I'll never forget, after the women went 0-9 and we went 2-7. And I remember it looked like a very heated discussion out on the deck that was like away from all of us. Like, we were in USA House and looking out there and seeing the seriousness that was being given to our national coach and our CEO of USA Curling at the time. And I told him, I was like, we don't have like the funding and the resources, I don't think, to give ourselves the best chances to be on the podium. Like, if we had, sports psychology, like you said, and a trainer and somebody to hold us as athletes like more accountable to what you're doing between events that you're playing in, because we're playing every other week still, but like, what are people doing other than that? Are the best players playing with the best players? Like, that at that point hadn't really happened I mean, it happened, but I mean, the best players have to play with the best players but does that mean make an all-star team? And, like, we didn't believe in making an all-star team as players, but it was something that was going to happen. A week before the combine, they actually, our director of athlete development asked me to write him a recommendation or a letter in support of him getting his visa renewed because he wasn't American. And I wrote a letter basically saying that, because he had done a ton for my curling career in the previous couple years. Like, I had learned a lot, and he did a lot of things that others weren't doing. He was one of the things that was going to help us get it to the top of the podium. And then 2 weeks later, going to the combine, which, again, I wasn't above. I was excited to see who they're going to put on my team. Because if he asked me to write him a letter of recommendation, he is not going to cut me. No chance. Like, I'm going to be the skip of one of these teams, and I want to see who the heck they're going to put on my team and see if we can make it work. And then 2 days after the combine, I got an email that says, thanks for your effort in the combine, but you were not chosen to be part of the high performance program moving forward. And I was like, and the next day a press release came out, and I'll never forget that press release. It said, we've selected the 10 male and 10 female athletes. So this wasn't one team. This wasn't 5 players. I'd been the skip of the last 2 Olympic teams, and our team was the best team in the country for a solid 2 years leading into the 2014 Olympics. And I was, what I think, but I like the best skip in our country, like, that calls the strategy and whatever. And like, we've selected the 10 athletes that we think that we believe will give our program the best chance at international curling success moving forward. And I was like, I mean, I'm 31 years old. My prime is definitely ahead of me. There's no way curling skips experience matters so much more. And I had not put in less work. I had never had a full-time job other than 2010, 2011 is the only time I even had a full-time job that competed with curling for me. Like, I'm a stay-at-home dad. My wife works and I stay at home with kids and whatever. Like, my kids, I had a pack and play in the warm room of the curling club that I would wait till 10 o'clock in the morning. And I knew that Luke, my oldest son, when he was a baby, like, would fall asleep on the 15-minute drive down to the curling club, and I'd put him in the pack and play, and I would curl, and I would keep looking out every couple minutes to see if he'd wake up. And if he woke up, I'd put him back in his car seat and put him out on the ice with me. And that was, and I practiced every day. Like, that's what I did. I was like the only person of that caliber, that age, doing that stuff. And yeah, so to read that was, it could have been infuriating, but I actually have this mantra, like, even with my curling teams, is we have to try as best we can. Like, when stuff doesn't go right, is to not be angry, but we can be disappointed, but we can't be angry. If you're angry, you got to get it out really quickly. Because disappointment, like, doesn't get in the way of making rational decisions, but anger does, right? So I remember my mom and my wife Sarah were really, really mad, and I was like, you know what? I never had funding, really. Even when we won in 10 and 14, like, we weren't like the national team. There wasn't really anything, and the people that were getting the big bucks in funding weren't the teams I was on. I was like, this doesn't really change anything, except for 10 really, really good players are no longer available to be my teammates. So, but luckily, Matt Hamilton and John Landsteiner, and we're also two of the people that were the last four cut at the combine, like myself. And Landsteiner didn't decide to start curling right away. The reason he got cut was because he was just starting his engineering career and wasn't sure if he even wanted to curl or if he wanted to actually get going in his career, because he's a very driven, he's a civil engineer, like, yeah. So, but then I remember being like, all right, Tyler George didn't come to the combine, and he was out. He maybe the smartest curler I've ever met. Like, he definitely is. And, and I had competed against him. We beat him he was the skip of the team that we beat in the finals of the Olympic trials to get to the 2010 Olympics. He lived in the same town. We're this exact same age. We graduated. We competed against each other a bunch of times. We tried to play together one time when we were in high school, and it didn't work out. And I was like, hey, I got cut from the program. Like, you still curling? You want to maybe join forces? And it didn't take very long. And before you knew it, we were teammates, and Hamilton was on our team. And then a couple months down the road, like, Landsteiner joined us, and yeah, and it was from that day forward. That year we played against those two national team high performance teams that year, and we played 11 games between the two of them, and we were 10 and 1.
I mean, it must have been like this nice feeling of redemption then, at the next national championships, to be the champions.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was necessarily, it was maybe a little bit of redemption, but it was validation, because I knew what they were going to be doing. Like, I knew the sports psychology piece, that all the things that they're going to try to be doing, and I challenged the guys when I had the guys, come play on our team. I was like, we need to do more than we've ever done. Like, I sent out a survey of probably 25 questions. Like, what's your favorite curling shot to throw? What's your least favorite curling shot to throw? Who's your favorite teammate you've ever had? Why? Like, trying to get us all so we had a better understanding of who we all were, so we could be a better team and have more success. Like, that's stuff the high performance program wasn't even doing, but I did it, and tried to get all of us on the same page and get more synergy than any team I'd ever played on that had before. And my guys committed to that, and we did it. And yeah, and it was super validating, and maybe a little redeeming, but I would say it was more validation than anything. And then the next year I had a combine again, and I'll never forget, in the interview, they said, will you play with whoever we put on your team? And I told them, I was like, I would love to be part of the high performance program, but at the end of last season, when we went to the World Championships and we finished 5th, this didn't feel like the end of a season like it always does. This felt like the beginning of something. So you can take me with the rest of these guys, or I'm going to keep playing with them, and whether you want us to be on your team or not, your choice.
How'd they respond?
I mean, they signed a third high performance team. They didn't cut anybody from the other two teams, but they added us as the third high performance team, and we got, the same funding and resources as everyone else. So.
I mean, I saw one of the things I was reading said that after the first combine, you wrote on Facebook, not being accepted into the high performance program is not going to stop me from moving forward in my career. Now accepting applications for my own high performance team. And you got 500 responses.
Yep. It was also a little bit of a turning point, in probably like fandom, like even within the curling community, because, you get your fans, and I imagine, like the area you come from, and those people are your biggest supporters. And maybe if you're skating for the country. Like we had fans, and I've always tried, I think of myself as trying to be like a good person, and like, and I have curling friends all over the country, but that was the first time where people thought like, man, this guy or these guys were maybe a little bit wronged, and we became like everybody's fate. We were Team Reject, and everybody in the country was rooting for us because it was us against the man.
Did you come up with the name Team Reject, or was
Oh
that
no,
just?
I'm sure other people definitely did. It wasn't me. No, I wouldn't do that.
Because I was like, that's a pretty phenomenal name as part of this story.
Yeah, it works. So
So
yeah,
then
it
for
was really fun to have and then to feel that support, and that support never went away even after we got back into the high performance program. I think there's people that are like, how could you do that? But like I said earlier, is I thought that we finally had something that was going to give us a chance to get on the right page to compete at the highest level in the world. Like that we actually built the structure to do it, and I wanted to be part of that because I believed in it.
at the Olympics, I guess you have to make it to the, gold medal game, but it's 10 days from, or like, I guess like the total is 11, but for you guys, like the first game that you play, or the first match, and then like 10 days later, and each of these games are like 2.5 hours. Like, how do you pace yourself for like a week and a half and these long periods of concentration during the games?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely I'd say it's tricky. We're used to playing a lot of games, right? Like, I mean, even last weekend we played in an event up in Calgary and we played 8 games, but we played those 8 games in 4 days. The actual trickier part, rather than the high concentration, is in the Olympics, the round robin is 9 games spread out over like 7 days or 8 days even, which usually, like, if we're playing the world championships are 9 days long, but they're like, you play the round robin portion is 12 games, and you play that in like less number of days than you play 9 at the Olympics. There's so much downtime is actually the tricky part of the Olympics, because because at the Olympics, the draws for curling are always 9 a.m., 2 p.m., 7 p.m. Like that's the schedule for the day. And and it goes men, women, men, women, men, women, right? If you're the 2 o'clock draw, and that happens to be, and there's only 4 sheets of ice and there's 10 teams. If you're one of those teams that doesn't play in that draw, you have a full day off in the middle, and nowhere else in all of curling would you ever have a full day off in the middle of a competition. So like, even just, it's actually tougher, the fact that it's drawn out so long, not so much for the mental focus part of it, but like the focus off the ice of how to stay engaged and not have these super long breaks between games that we're not used to. Like becoming a problem. And then luckily the Olympics, there's plenty of distractions. Like you're watching other events and, hanging out in the dining hall and whatever. Like, for me, like one of those biggest things is going out and hanging out in the lounge, like the USA lounge, that they have like the breakfast foods and coffee and whatever, and chatting with other athletes. I mean, I actually even, I don't know if she'd ever like admit to it. No, I'm kidding. She would. But I had a really cool, profound conversation with Marina Gasu in 2018. I took a picture with her at closing ceremonies in 2010, and then I was at the media summit in Park City in 2017, and at nighttime, people were doing things, and I didn't have any media request kind of stuff. And one of the media guys was like, "I'm going over to the Park City ice rink. They're doing a figure skating and hockey demonstration. You want to come along?" I was like, "Sure, I'll hop on the media bus." So I go to the demonstration, and Mariah, I swear, she skated her short program, her actual short program, because she wasn't one of the favorites to go, right? Like she was kind of like, she got onto the team kind of as like a, maybe she was going to make it, maybe she wasn't. And she used that platform to like let it fly. And it was so impressive. And everybody else was jumping safe jumps and doing like, their program, like some program to just give people a bunch of chances for pictures. And she used it. And I was like, that's what Olympians do. And she did that in 2010, and she didn't make the team in 14, right? And I was like, she's going to be at the Olympics again. And sure as crap, like she crushes it at whatever the trials were, and they name her onto the team. And I was like, the first time I'm going to see her there. And at this point, I was really in like a spot where, you know, if you see somebody that somebody does that impresses you, you let them know kind of deal, like, because there's power in it, right? And I remember seeing her pretty early in the games, and it was a morning, and I was down in the USA Lounge, and I'm like, hey, Mariah, I'm like, I got a picture with you. I'm like, John Shuster from curling. I got a picture with you at the 2010 Olympics, and I was like, just want to tell you, congrats at making him back. I was like, when I watched you skate in Park City, I was like, I knew like that was what a true Olympian would do, and was going to make it back. Like, I knew you're going to be here. She's like, oh, thank you. And like, she was like kind of on her, didn't like really acknowledge me a ton, but like was nice. And then I was like, oh, she's got makeup on. And I was like, the women's figure skating is not till the end. And I was like, I was getting like full makeup for like training and stuff. She was like, no, I'm skating in the team event in like in like 2 hours or 3 hours. I'm like, oh, I'm like, well, go crush it. Cause I know you like, go crush it like you did in Park City or something along those lines.
Mhm.
And she's like, thanks. And then she like puts her, and you had to take your shoes off to go into the room because it was Korea. She put her shoes back on. She's like, thank you for telling me that. I'm like, oh, you're welcome. Like, go crush it. And like that skate in the team program, do you remember what happened there for her?
No, I don't
She
remember.
landed
Oh,
the
it's just
first
triple
triple
axel.
first
Yes,
one ever
triple X.
by a female in the Olympics. And the next day she saw me, she's like, I want to thank you for like telling me that, like, because as I was like taking off my skate guards or something along those lines, like I thought of like what you told me that morning, and I like knew I was gonna crush it. I'm like, I had some impact, and again, on somebody who I didn't know from a different sport, just by saying something like encouraging or telling her about, like, I was so impressed by her skate in Park City, like the way she used it, and it didn't surprise me because that's what Olympians do. Like, and that's yeah, there's just so much power in it. There's so much power in lifting others, and that's, you know, I'll never forget being at the summit in 2005, you know, with all the athletes across all the sports, which you don't do anymore, but it was in the summer, and the steering committee that was there, Bonnie Blair, Dan Jansen, Derek Parra, Mark Grimet, Paul Wiley, like, we're talking about like your ability to like to lift each other up as the big team, like that. The curling, the USA Team USA is like this bigger thing. It's not just this sport and that sport. It's all this whatever. And like truly seeing stuff like that. And that happened, you know, plenty of times in that game. Like, you know, we played Canada in the semifinal game the same day that the U.S. women played the gold medal game in hockey against Canada, who that monkey had been on their back since 2002, right? Like, and, you know, every time we walked by each other in the village, knowing we were each playing Canada, it was like, it's going to be a bad day to be Canada today. Like, yeah, it is. And then they went out and got it done, and then we went out and got it done. Like, yeah. So yeah, the Olympic Village is just, you know, between games, like, has a chance to be a powerful place, especially when you have athletes from the same, you know, country doing things to you know, be one big team. And I think that, you know, Team USA for a lot of years has been a great way to has been a great resource to make sure that we all remember to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing the athletes supporting other athletes. Do you get to go watch other? I mean, because I guess now you're saying you have a lot of downtime
Yeah,
during
right.
the games, but you still have to keep your focus. Like, you can't go wild and crazy. I guess you
Yeah,
do
in
curlers in the
2022, we got
middle
to go
of
to way more
competitions.
events than ever before in 22 because there was no spectators, and your credential got you into everything.
Okay.
Just get on a bus. And so we went to like Big Air snowboarding was like in town. So like we went to that twice. Like I
Well,
went to
that
my
looks
first,
so
I'd
cool
never
on
been to a
TV.
figure skating competition. I got to go to, you know, pairs figure skating. So I'd never actually been seen figure skating live at an Olympics because, you know, like you might not know, but like as an athlete, if you're going to a different sport, you have to put your name in a lottery. And like for figure skating, they gave so little delegation tickets that your chance of getting them as an athlete were almost none. So that's where like Beijing was kind of cool because we had the opportunity to go see things that we never got the opportunity to see before.
Are you looking on the bright side of things?
Yeah.
Glad that you got to glad you got to see. So wait, so 2018, I want to talk about your road to gold here.
I am trying to, my phone is dying and I'm trying to figure out how to get this plug to stay plugged in. Like it's plugged in, but my phone, I need a new one. I have to
Is
push
this the
really
same
hard and then
phone
it has
that
to
was at
some
the
upset state.
bottom of the lake?
Yeah, this is not my bottom of the lake phone. I'm sorry, Sarah. Trying here. I got to try all these different plugs because only a couple of them will stay. But okay, this one might. Come on now, don't tip. Maybe the lightning bolt is still on there. I just didn't want this thing to die completely. Okay, sorry.
Yay.
We're gonna check your editing skills. That's all.
I don't know if Paramount's hiring me to be an editor anytime soon. Okay, so 2018, not a super great start. You lost the first 4 of 6
No,
games.
no. We won our first game.
You won our first. Okay, so
We did.
good start.
It was the first time, to be honest, in the Olympics since 2006 that we won our first game. So yeah, we beat Korea in the first game there. And then we went like win, loss, win, and then we lost 3 in a row.
So then you're at a point where you have to win the next 3, and it's like 3 of the top 4 teams in the world. What was your mindset?
Well,
because now you're like redeemed in the eyes of. Sorry, I think probably to the whole country, you're still the face of curling because 2006, 2010, 2014, and Schuster's the main guy.
yeah.
You're the face that we see at the Olympics all the time now. So I think for the general public, you're our hope. But maybe for the curling world, they're thinking like, oh no, not again.
No, I think the world was thinking, oh
Okay.
no, not again. But I think curling, it might have been flip of what you're doing. But really though, like, we were 2-2 and heading into a really important day where we had, the 2 weakest teams we had left, which were not weak, but like Japan and Norway. And the Japanese team that was at the Olympics, like my lifetime record against them was like at this point like 8-1, and we went out and got we got drilled. They killed us. We shook hands early, lost hard. Then we came out and played Norway, and they scratched the rocks, which makes them curl more aggressively and whatever before the game. But I had a very, very easy shot, like an open takeout, which is like to take it out for me, like is like 98% of the time, like that the rock will be gone out of the house when I go to throw it. For me to stay is probably like 90% of the time I'm going to stay and we're going to score 3 points. And I let it go and it over curled and we flashed it, so we didn't hit the rock and we only got 1 point instead of 3. And my life changed in my walk back because it was right before the 5th end break. It was in the 5th end. And I had a shaker cup as what I was using for a water bottle that didn't have any logos on it or whatever. And I grabbed it at the beginning of the 5th end break and I took a drink and I put it down and I was like so mad at what just happened. I talked about the anger thing, but like I closed the lid to the shaker cup, and with shaker cups, a lot of times you have to like press them hard to get them. And I was like, and I slammed my hand on the top of it to shut it, and the bottom of this plastic thing busted out, and my half of my water bottle I had ended up on my pants. And I walked to the bench and I said, Phil, who is our coach, Phil Drobnik, I need your pants. And so we went to the locker room and I wore his pants for the second half of the Norway game, and we went on to lose the game anyways. But and it was like that night that I walked across the Olympic Park, which my family had, the bus that they're taking back to get to their bus station to get to their Airbnb that they're at. And basically was like, I can't believe this is like happening like again. Like I was so dominant in Olympic trials to that point as a player, to have that failure at the Olympics just didn't make sense because it wasn't like the competition was any harder at the Olympics other than a few teams. So I was trying to figure out like what it was. And my wife's like, you got to be the skip that got your team here then that won the Olympic trials. Like, well, our team got it. She's like, yeah, what position you play, dummy? I'm like, skip. She's like, yeah, we'll be the skip that got your team to the trials. Like, doesn't seem that difficult to me. I'm like, but it really was, like when I handed off, I was, carrying one of my kids and the other one was, in a stroller. And when I went walking back across and I was like, did the water bottle incident get caught on TV? Like, I didn't know if I was going to be a meme. Like, was this going to be what was the biggest story of my Olympics was a water bottle bursting on my pants and me soaking myself with water and losing 2 games and whatever. And I was like, it's so dumb. Like this isn't like my story, like that have been working at. Like, I was like, and I sat on a grassy knoll, I swear to God, outside of the curling rink in Pyeongchang, and it was lit up, and there was the logo of the curling rink was on the outside in Pyeongchang, and looked up there and just was like, I'm going to give my kids the last 3 games of the round robin, because we weren't even sure if we'd get in the medal round, because we would have needed a bunch of help to even give us a chance. And I was like, well, I'm going to give my kids 3 games, because I've never given them one as a skip that they could ever like go show their kids or grandkids someday. Like, the only ones that I'd be having success at in the Olympics were when I was the lead on our team in 2006, which they didn't even show, my shots during the game. So yeah, and I woke up the next morning and saw Dan Jansen's story was on there, and on a Facebook thing that was on, and I clicked on it and was reminded that he had massive failures at the Olympics until the day he didn't, when he, went and broke the world record and won gold in an event that wasn't even his best event, in his last event at the Olympics, after being having this massive failure and crazy heartache, with his sister and whatever. And I was like, I can rewrite this story for me if I could just go out and be the skip that got my team here. And I just made a promise in our pregame meeting that we have every game before we play, that I was going to be the best teammate I've ever been, the best skip I've ever been for our team. And I challenged my teammates to do the same. And we played Canada, as a country, we had never beat Canada at the Olympics in men's curling prior to that day. And we made it to the extra end, and I had a shot to win. And I was definitely narrower than I was trying to throw it. And Matt swept his face off, and we cleared a guard by a piece of paper, like a 32nd of an inch that we got by the guard by, and we hit their rock out. But like, I didn't need to be close to it, but if that rock curls a 32nd more of an inch, like, I'm not talking to you on this podcast right now, because we weren't winning gold. I might not even be curling anymore, but Matt got that rock by. And yeah, and after the game, in the post-game interview, I actually, even like the only time in my life I've ever like broke down like on camera, but I was just like, I was telling her, like, I saw this video of Dan Jansen this morning, and I was like, I knew that I had a chance, like, that this isn't my story, like, of what's happened throughout my career. And there was power. And so the next 2 games I did the same thing, and we beat Switzerland, and I played like the best game I probably ever played at the Olympics in that game. And then we went and beat Great Britain and got a direct ticket into the medal round, because the right things happened that we didn't even have to play a tiebreaker to get in the medal round. And we played Canada again and controlled that game and won. And then, yeah, and then played Sweden in the most famous game in U.S. curling history. And in that game, something happened super fun, that we scored 5 in the 8th end, and I had a double takeout for 5, like a shot that, I had in my career been known for at the Olympics, not making that big shot, and making that big shot to score the most points that had ever been, scored by a U.S. team in the Olympics, in the gold medal game against the number 1 ranked team in the world from Sweden. And yeah, and it was, it's fun, because I scored 5 points to clinch our spot to get into the Olympics in 2014. In the 2014 Olympic trials, we scored 5 points in a game. So to score 5 points in an Olympic final is also kind of fun. So
To score 5 points, I was like, wow, that seems so unlikely.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
That's incredible. The analyst for NBC at that game, or one of the analysts, he wrote, on your 5-game win streak to the gold medal, he was like, this new curler came out just full of energy and confidence. And what that did, it changed John, but it also changed the whole team. He was this leader who wasn't missing anything.
Like just wanted to be the guy that I'd worked to be, and give my kids 3 games, and give them 5. Yeah.
I mean, I was lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, it was life-changing. My life's never been the same. I've curled and competed with that freedom ever since. And since winning in 2018, nothing's given to you after you win an Olympic medal. Like, you keep competing, and yeah, the target maybe gets bigger on your back or whatever. Like, maybe somebody to play against us at a national championship, a young team is like, maybe they're more nervous when they're playing against you. But like, we won the national championship in 19, 20, 23, 24, like, the Olympic trials in 22. Like, I've never had that much success, like, continued for that long of a time. I'd always built teams where we'd have success in the Olympic year leading into the Olympics and give ourselves a chance at the Olympics. But like 2014, we built a team that had success for those 3 years. But like, since that gold medal game in 18, like it's like playing with house money, which is, like I said, my life changed, from that day, that walk across the Olympic park after I thought I maybe which by the way, no one has that water bottle footage. So I wasn't sure if they did at the time, and maybe that got me to the place I needed to be. But
I mean, and you said in 2016, winning the bronze on the podium, you were like, my dream is to win gold. Like, this is not enough for me. When you were now standing at the top of the podium, did you think like, this is now enough for me?
no. I mean, it was the most validating moment of my life, probably. But also to like have that success and to like get there was like also no emotion. So like I never thought I would stand on the top of an Olympic podium and look respectable. I thought I would be I'm a crier. I've never watched a US person get a gold medal and not cried during the national anthem, but there was not a tear in any of my eyes. I couldn't have faked one because I was so disconnected emotionally away from what it meant, because it meant so much to me, that was part of what was getting in my way at the Olympics as well, is because it meant so much that I couldn't perform when it mattered as well. So I remember feeling it. When the shot hit and we scored the 5 and we basically clinched the game, was like, wow, this is what it feels like. But standing on top of the podium was just this crazy proud moment and validating, I'd think, of the choice that I made. But I mean, it's also like in curling, when you work to get to the top and now you're technically at the top, like to just like walk away like Tyler did for my team, like I couldn't have imagined doing that, because I was the best I had ever been. And so to like leave when you're the best you've ever been when you've worked to get there seems like crazy. As again, like somebody who, like, I'm not physically going to lose it. Like I actually think even right now, like I might be the best I've ever been today still, like better than I was in 18. But yeah, so like on the top of the podium, like it was more of a validation thing, but it was also sort of disappointing because I wanted to be able to have that emotion. Like, like you almost feel like you're cheated from it, like when that was the case. But in order to get there, like that's what the sacrifice was. And you know what? I think the sacrifice is probably worth it.
I mean, your teammates were emotional.
Yeah, Matt cried.
Matt,
I'm still not sure it was real, but hey.
well, there's a picture of, wiping his eye.
Yeah, maybe it was real. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's still my teammate. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The other crazy thing is we did not even have our medals on. They gave us the women's medals.
What?
Yeah, so like my Olympic gold medal is probably one of the only gold medals in the history of the Olympics that has never been worn on the top.
Wait, why did they give you someone else's gold
medal?
Because
they delivered the medals, the gold, silvers, and bronzes to the venue, and they apparently, whoever it was, like put a bunch of women's medals because they were maybe mixed together and they didn't separate them out. So everybody on our team except for polo had a women's medal, because there's actually a picture where you can see a Swiss guy and me looking at our medals on the podium before they played the national anthem, because the alternate on the Swiss team with this bronze medal, they got the women's bronze medals as well. So he's like, did you get the men's curling medal? Because we have the women's curling medals over here. I'm like, no, mine definitely says women's curling.
So did you have to give them back after?
Right after we got off, like they had ours and they handed us ours and we put ours on and put theirs on. So like my gold medal's never been worn on the top of a podium. Nor has Tyler's, nor has Matt's, nor has Landsteiner's. Only Joe Polo's. We had one men's medal, only Joe though.
So anyway, so then you decide, like you're going to just continue curling.
Yeah.
Is it because now you're like in the groove, you love your life, this is your calling?
I didn't really know what else to do. I'd lie if I didn't say it had a little bit of something to do with elite athlete health insurance, because curling's like my job. But for real, like, I mean, it is, and at this point, like, we win the Olympics, and like we talked about the movie, like sell our life rights or have people trying to buy our life rights. We have, agents now reaching out to us that want to represent us. And like, is there actually money to be made in curling? Like we've had sponsors, but we never had any sponsors that were real. I mean, they were real, but they weren't like, we weren't making money curling, maybe covering our expenses plus a little bit. The only thing I was making was to get free health insurance or get really cheap health insurance for my family. Like that was, and now like, so to leave when now there's, so we sign with an agent and, and we get some deals early and doing some things and like, okay, like now I can maybe focus even more and be what I've been, I'd always hoped that someday, my career could open the door for maybe people to be a curler for a living even if it's not a professional curler, but like professional curler, like somebody who can make enough money doing this sport so they don't have to have a day job like everybody else generally does in curling. So in our country, at least. And yeah, so that had a little bit of something to do with it. And yeah, I mean, so we went and kept playing, three of the four of us, and had a bunch of success. And every year it's like, it's almost like if you're going to play one more year, you're going to play 4 more years. Like you make your decisions in quads, which is so dumb. There's no other sport, non-Olympic sport, where you're like, oh, if I'm going to play next year, I'm going to be playing 4 years from now. It's insane. But it's also good because it gives you, something to, continue to try to get better and better for.
When Peacock did the 4-part docuseries on you guys leading up to Beijing, and Nick Offerman calls himself a curling super fan, narrated, did you get to have any say in like who would be narrating it? Did you know he was a super fan? Are you friends with him?
No, I don't know Nick Offerman. I think Matt is friends with one of his fellow cast members from the from Parks and Rec, but not him personally. But no, I don't remember how. I think someone that was working on the thing like were like, oh, I think we can get Nick Offerman to kind of do this thing, but we never met him or anything like that. But it was so fun though, like. And it worked out incredibly. I mean, we had an incredible final series with, Dropkin leading in there and they got to get a peek into like our team and our goofiness with each other. I thought it was one of my favorite things to have. Just for like what that looks like leading into an Olympics. I thought it was a super fun take on it and yeah, and it ended up, working out where we won the trials, so it was even better.
I mean, people are super interested in curling, and this gives them behind the scenes of, life of a curler.
Yeah.
Sorry, life of an elite curler.
Sure. Yeah, because life of a curler is just like anybody who lives an everyday life that maybe plays in a bowling league or a
when
beach
you got
volleyball
the
league.
keys to Duluth and Superior, did you find out if they open anything?
I don't know that why do you have a key to a city? Does it open something?
Yeah, I have keys. They don't open anything.
Okay, well, then I'm going to assume mine don't either.
I thought that maybe it was different. Okay, so let me see. I don't want to keep you too much longer. We're almost done here. I had a question about the stones.
Sure.
This is more of a logistical question because the stones, like I was reading how they're made and the granite and how, Olympic specifications are very exact to what you can use, but they're like $500 to $600 a stone. So do you have your own set of stones? Do you travel with them? Do you travel with backup sets? I mean, this is like a $10,000, piece of luggage that you're taking.
No, they weigh 42 pounds too. So like each one of those is like the max amount of luggage you could carry. So no, you don't. You play with the stones that are at the place that you go to play with. So you don't carry your own stones. You bring your own brooms, your own shoes, whatever, but like the stones are already there. And so like when we play on sheet B with yellow, that's just a set. So like somebody else plays with those. Like if Canada plays with yellow on the sheet before we play with them, they play with the same stones that we play the next game with, kind of thing. So, but they come from one place in the world, the Ailsa Craig Island off the coast of Scotland, which now they're not even mining any more granite. So like curling's in this place where there's currently not any new curling stones being manufactured. So it's also a little bit tricky because they do wear out like over time. So that's one of the hurdles curling has ahead of it here in the upcoming like probably 20 or 30 years is to like if they're going to allow like because there's only one granite in the world that's like pure enough to not like crack or fracture when it hits, and that's like the place they found it. So, but yeah, you don't bring them along, but that's where like an alternate on a curling team. So like Joe Polo was our alternate in 18, and at nighttime they actually have night practice, and like they'll go and throw each one of the stones and try to throw them exactly the same because they're identical in theory, but if one glides a little further or one curls a little harder or one runs straighter than like what the average is, like by knowing that you like arrange which order you throw them based on like how your team thinks they run. So yeah, but it's interesting. But I don't have curling stones that I travel with, but I do own a bunch of old curling stones that came from a barn in North Dakota.
I mean, they look so cool. Like I was thinking of getting like little like putting up some sporting equipment behind me, and I was like, I should get a curling stone. And then
Well,
I saw that they're like not super cheap.
Yeah, they're not. But like I said, I bought 42 of them that were old. Like they had been sitting on the floor of this barn in North Dakota for like 40 years. And I think there's 42. And I got them for cheaper than $500 a piece.
You mentioned earlier that one of the countries like scratches their
Well, no,
stones.
like
So what?
when you're playing, like so the stone actually travels on a little surface that's like concave. It's like only like that, like 5 millimeters, like a half a centimeter wide or less, that the rock actually travels across the ice on, and it's a circle. Well, as they get played with and played, that part starts to buff out, and so like the rocks won't curve as hard. And so usually in the middle of a competition, the ice makers would be like, okay, we're scratching the stones, quote unquote, like tonight. But they did it in the middle of the day, like after the morning game. They did it before the women played, or maybe after the women's. I think it was before the women played. And so they take a sheet of very, very coarse sandpaper and they like do a push and a pull and whatever and like actually rough up that surface that it travels on. And then their stones will like curl harder again. And so like they call it like texturing of the stones or scratching them. And that was something that they tell you they're going to do it and they do it, but then it changes how the stone and sometimes it doesn't change much. But sometimes it does. And in the 2018 Olympics, that particular night, it was much, much different than it was for every other game.
And that's legal
Well,
in
it's
curling.
the head ice makers that are making the ice for the entire thing are the guys who make that call and do it. So they scratch every single rock in the entire place. So
Okay.
it's not legal. It's like part of the process.
Okay, got it. Got it. W- uh, one more curling question, two more curling questions, and then I'll play like a short game. So, uh, why are the Olympic trials a year before the Olympics?
The thought behind that is because we're kind of a fringe sport with limited resources and like, like USA curling it never has really been a robust, like wealthy NGB. If we named our team a year in advance, like we did in 2006 and 2010, they could focus all your resources on one team and help them build for the entire cycle, entire year going into the Olympics. So that's why they used to do it that way. But then when both us and the women's team underperformed in 2010, they decided to go back to the original way where you play the Olympic trials a couple months before the Olympics, because our competitive season usually runs from like the beginning of September until, mid-February. And they wanted to see like, okay, which teams have and like play the Olympic trials in November and give teams a chance to be the best team that particular year.
Well, I'm rooting for you because I see now that you're trying for Italy. Go
Yeah,
back.
we're in
Yeah.
the final Olympic trials, which there's 4 teams. But then if we win that, we have to go qualify through an Olympic qualifying event because we didn't directly qualify as a country for the Olympics.
Yeah, but that would be so exciting to get 6 Olympic teams. And this time you can bring your kids.
Yeah.
Who are like a great age to really, enjoy and understand what's going on.
Yeah. And my kids actually both curl too. And my older kid is actually really, really, really good already. So like between the 2034 Olympics being in Salt Lake and the fact that my kids are going to be 20 and 18 years old and I'm only going to be 51, like, who knows? Maybe I'm going to stick around for 2 more quads and try to go to the Olympics with my kids.
I feel like that could happen.
It could happen.
I mean, that would be amazing.
It'd be wild.
It would be wild, and curling's such like a great sport because it's already community based.
Yeah, although I mean, I would say it's possible, but like there are some right now. There's more kids working harder than they've ever worked, kind of thing. Like it wouldn't just take me to be like that. Like my kids would have to decide that they wanted to dedicate their, you know, high school life and early young life like into competitive curling for that to be a possibility. Like I wouldn't just be able to be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take my kids and whatever. So like we'll see. We'll see if my kids if they decide to go that route, then maybe you'll see me trying to do something crazy in 2034. But it's a
I
long
mean,
way.
right? You said that you think that you're a better curler now than you've ever been. Has the rest of the world, to the countries that are serious about curling and have curling programs, are they also putting more resources into improving their teams?
Yeah, I mean, right now, probably almost every team in the top 10 in the world would have been the favorite going to every Olympics prior to 2018 or even 2022. Like the top teams are better than the top teams have ever been. It's yeah, the entire world has gotten better. But yeah, but we've gotten better too. So
That's what happens when you make curling so popular here.
well, I made it
People
popular
are
here, but I'm talking the rest of the world. But that's just
yeah. Okay, so I like to play this game at the end, Torch or Tin. Torch is something that you think is awesome, and Tin is like, I don't think this is cool. Okay, mixed doubles as an Olympic event. Torch or Tin? Torch.
Yeah.
Is there an advantage to being a man or a woman in curling?
Yeah. It's body weight. It really is. Like it's so the amount of effect you can have on a curling stone it's a finite amount based on like how big you are for the most part. So like my 2 guys who sweep on my team weigh 230 pounds and they can transfer almost all of their body weight onto the brush to like get it to and just that extra weight and sweeping ability, like men can have a lot greater effect on the distance and the direction that a rock's going on. So it's like, and then also the ability to even like, no, there's a lot of women that can throw it on like as hard as I can throw it, but sweeping ability is just, and it's just a size thing more than anything, probably.
I mean, I went to go see the mixed doubles in Pyeongchang. I saw the Hamiltons play a little bit, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything to have more, more Olympic possibilities for people within your sport is always torch. Like, I mean, the game is, I'm a world bronze medalist in mixed doubles and it was fun. I actually had way more fun. Like at tournaments, when you're actually in that crowd, it seems to be like the off the ice vibe is so much more like laid back and fun and like community than even just playing like full team. Even at the highest levels, that's why I love mixed doubles. Am I going to play it anymore? Well, now I'm getting kind of old to sweep rocks, and like I said, just yeah, we'll see. I'm not necessarily planning on playing mixed doubles, but if the right opportunity came along, maybe.
You got to preserve some stuff for the 2034. Curling being called chess on ice. Torch or Tin?
You can call it chess on ice. Don't you dare call it shuffleboard on ice. That's tin.
More sports should have an equivalent to the broom stacking tradition after games.
Torch. You're asking easy
Torch.
ones today.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, I think sure. Olympic curlers being mic'd up live for every shot.
Torch. It's
they would
tricky.
have your water bottle footage.
Yeah, no, it's tricky, but that also is, I think, why our sport has had the longevity and like where we're getting to is because no other sports have that access to the personality of the people playing. Because you want to have it because we're also the best commentators because we're talking about the game and talking about the strategy. But then people really can connect with you on an emotional level that other sports just don't have the ability to provide the access because of, whether it be, whatever's happening out there. And yeah, sometimes it's tin when things aren't going right and you just want to, drop an F-bomb or something, but like, but it really has, I think it's really endeared curling to a wider audience because people really do feel like they can connect with the personalities out there.
Owning a football club, as some Americans call it, soccer.
Yeah. 10?
So wait, so you've been co-owner of this team for a year and a half now?
2 years, yeah.
Almost 2 years?
Yeah. No, it's got it's torch a lot of the time. Yeah. It's really cool, but at the same point, like, you know, it puts me in positions. It's this last year I ended up being the interim general manager as well. And it just put me in positions where I had to choose between, whether it be like going to a kid's sporting event or having to like go to a kid's sporting event and rush to do this and do that. I think owning the team, if I was like just an owner that got to sit back and not be super involved, would definitely be torch. Being as involved as I have had to be the last couple of years has just been difficult. That's all.
Okay, and that's understandable.
It was super fun. We made it all the way to the national semifinals in NPSL, not this past season, but in 2024, and that was torch for sure. So I'm not gonna. I was just it's torch most days.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have thought like I want to own a sports team.
Yeah, it's there's just more to it than anybody would probably understand.
Yeah,
so.
I haven't looked that far into it. It was just that was just like a first
for the right
reaction.
price. I'll sell it to you. You can own my soccer. Kidding.
Yeah, I don't want to be missing after school activities though.
Well, you have a few years from that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. The name The Rejects.
It's probably torch, but
well,
but like again, we embraced it. So.
That's like the opposite of the docuseries, which was called
American Rock Stars.
American Rock Stars, yes. Which is an awesome name.
Yeah. No, you know what though? The one time in my life that I was
not taken enthusiastically on your side.
No, it was like I've only felt like a rock star one time in my life. I threw a stone at the NHL outdoor game at the Naval Academy Stadium in Annapolis right after the Olympics, and we were in our Olympic gear. And when we were walking through to like go down like through the concourse to go back toward like the ice rink to like throw our thing, like we got mobbed, and someone's like, "That's Team Shuster. They're like the Beatles of the Olympics." So yeah, I'll take American Rock Stars. That was a good title.
Thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate it. I'm sure everyone loved hearing all your stories, learning more about you and curling.
Yeah, no, it's been I've had a pretty fun journey. It's been obviously some tough stuff in there too, but it's I've had a lot of fun sharing my story with people when they want to hear about it. So, and it's always fun catching up and talking to you too.
Yeah, and I'll be rooting for you guys as you continue over the next several weeks on your quest for Olympics number 6. Olympics number 6. By the way, if you make it, you'll be like really rarefied category of Americans to go to 6 Olympics.
There's only one so far, but there's a couple of us trying for us to join Todd Lodwig. Yep.
I love it. I mean, it's inspirational for people like me who, can see the longevity of the careers and also the arc.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I'm looking at it like you too, like, right. Like done competing after the Olympics kind of thing. Like it's also heartbreaking because, I just know how much like, yeah, it's a lot of work, but like how much joy like competition brings to like top level people. And that's where like, honestly, a lot of days you just remind yourself like how lucky you are to be able to have the opportunity to play a sport where you can compete for such a long time. Like, cause again, you look at sports like figure skating where there's just not that opportunity to have a crazy longevity of a career. So pretty fortunate.
So I have to, unfortunately, I have to go now. Yeah.
Technical difficulties earlier.
No, amazing. This has been awesome, and I so appreciate your time today.
Of course. Good luck with everything.
Okay, thank
I look
you.
forward to watching, and everybody who I've told that you're doing this thing is super, super excited to when they start coming out. So,
Oh, great.
I know
We'll
Rowdy
start
Games.
releasing them. Okay, terrific. Bye. Make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and join us on this journey. And remember, behind every gold medal is a story worth telling.
When you really need care, you need 24/7 access to a care team, not a maze of paperwork from a third party. Every day, America's hospitals and health systems show up for you. Navigating healthcare can feel overwhelming, but you can count on real doctors, real nurses, real people, providing quality, around-the-clock care when you need it most. They're in your corner, in communities across America. Your neighbors, your lifelines, right beside you, holding your hand and helping find answers. That's what putting patients first actually means. Learn more at strengthenhealthcare.org, brought to you by the Coalition to Strengthen America's Healthcare.